They've added a ton of new features that allow us to emulate the watercolors on the iPad and make it look like the water flows on the iPad a little bit. And it just looks so much more realistic and it's so much more fun.
Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and in this video I'm talking to Karin of iPad lettering, except in this video it's not actually iPad lettering, it's iPad watercolor. And she is walking us through exactly how to do watercolor on your iPad. It actually looks really realistic, and she's giving us lots of freebies and lots of tips on how to do this yourself. So let's just jump right in. Karin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been quite a while since we've talked to each other like this.
Well, it's just so hard when we're on literally opposite time zones at all times.
Yeah, exactly.
What time is it there right now?
Oh, it's just after 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, it's just after 4 p.m. right now for me. So this is like the only time of day that our time zones actually work to overlap. It's so funny.
Yeah.
So you've been here before. I think a lot of people know who you are. If they have ever used an iPad for lettering or art, they probably know exactly who you are. But can you give everybody a little rundown of who you are and what you do and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Karin. I'm from iPad lettering, and I'm trying to help people bring out their most creative inner self using their iPad. And that is lettering and art. And I've started in planning as well. Recently, I found this new app. So lettering, art, and planning on the iPad.
And you, I just think it's so crazy because your business with the iPad lettering is so successful, but you don't do it full time. I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear that too.
Yes, that's right. This is still my hobby. I've done this for 4 years now, and I just love it so much. But I'm hesitant to do this full time because if it's a job, then it doesn't feel like, just something that you're doing for fun. And so, yes, I've still got a full-time job, and I very much enjoy my job as well. So I really like having both sides to what I do during my day is completely different. And then at night, I can switch off and take out my iPad and create art, be creative. And I enjoy that very much.
I think a lot of people will be inspired by that because a lot of people are doing this as a hobby or a side hustle. And I mean, obviously, if you've been doing it for 4 years, it's totally possible and enjoyable to do. So that's awesome. Yeah, and just so everybody who's watching knows, if you don't know Karin or if you've never heard of iPad lettering, Karin does all the iPad versions of all the workbooks that I do for calligraphy and for watercolor, which is what we're talking about today. And we're going to talk, I think at some point we have to talk in this interview about how different it is now than how it was even just a couple of years ago, because the iPad changed so much. And I think that's probably kind of the right place to kick this off, because if anybody's watching and they've done the Show Me Your Florals free watercolor course, which you can go and join, and we'll put the links down in the description, then you know that generally what we did before for iPad watercolor was like a stamp, and you essentially you just kind of put a stamp and it felt a little bit like cheating, and we had people tell us that they felt like they were cheating because it looked so good and they didn't really have to do much work. But now ProCreate, I just found out because I don't use the iPad that much, has an update where you can actually paint on your iPad. So walk us through how different it is now than it has been in the past.
Yeah, so that's why I'm super excited about this year's version of Show Me Your Florals as well, because as you said, we can now almost paint like real watercolors. So I think we did it in 2017, and back then it was ProCreate 3, now it's ProCreate 5. So they've added a ton of new features that allow us to emulate the watercolors on the iPad and make it look like the water flows on the iPad a little bit. And it just looks so much more realistic and it's so much more fun. So they have made a new way of creating brushes and then added a ton of new features and little, the way it sort of animates when you paint on the iPad is a bit different now as well. So just the feel you get from painting on the iPad with the Apple Pencil, it feels different as well. And it creates these beautiful results. And so I'm so excited. I really can't wait for everyone to do this and to join me in our challenge.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think we need to like keep talking about it. I think we could just like see it because you're going to show us. And I still have yet to see how this new fantastic watercolor painting works on the iPad. So maybe I'll just take my face off and let you show us. And then we'll talk a little bit more afterwards. But before we start, I just want to make sure, because I know that, you know, when you're doing stuff like this, you need brushes and you need textures and you need all these things on the iPad. And so where can people go to get all the things that you're going to use in this video? Because I know a lot of people will probably want to download it before they see the lesson.
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to my website, which is ipadlettering.com, and then the link is going to be ipadlettering.com/showmeyourflorals, and it's going to be all one word. And then you can go there and download everything for free that you need for this tutorial.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's just stop talking and show the amazing artwork.
Yes, let's do it. I'm so excited.
All right, so what you need to get started with painting florals on your iPad? Well, of course, an iPad, any size is fine as long as you can run ProCreate 5 and works with an Apple Pencil. The iPad I have here is a 12.9-inch iPad Pro. This is the 2020 version, but the 2018 is actually equally fine. I don't see any difference between the two. Or I also have this little iPad here. This is a 2018 9.7-inch iPad. This works with the first version of the Apple Pencil. This is absolutely fine as well. So any iPad really that works with an Apple Pencil is fine. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the brushes that we're going to use are pressure sensitive. So if you don't have a stylus that supports pressure sensitivity, you won't be able to get all the benefits from the brushes. And then you will also need the ProCreate app. And then you'll need ProCreate brushes, and you will get these as part of the course. And for this edition, I've actually made a couple of new brushes that you are going to like very much, and I will demo them as part of this tutorial as well. And then you will also need a watercolor template. This will come as part of the course material. And one of the things that I would like to point out is that this template has a slight watercolor background, and this is achieved by a couple of textures layers. And what you need to make sure is that the textures layer is above your painting layers. So definitely recommend that you make a few additional layers below the textures, just so that you don't accidentally overwrite your textures. And then we're also going to need a color palette. I'm going to show you how to create this palette as part of the course. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to use my IPL Summer Shades palette, and you can find this on my website, and it's a free download. This has a nice range of shades that work really nicely for painting florals. But now let's do some painting. So we are going to start by painting a peony, and I'm going to be using this Peony 2 brush. I've made this from one of Stephanie's paintings, and this is a very easy way for you to get started. So all you have to do really is choose your favorite color and then paint your peony like this. And some of you might say, well, this is cheating. This is not really painting it myself. And of course, I agree with you. But this is also for someone like myself who's not the best at painting florals. This is actually a very easy way for you to get started. And to make sure that you don't feel like you are cheating, I'm going to show you how we can improve this a little bit. So the first thing we want to do is make this a little bit bigger. I feel this is a bit too small. So let's undo and increase the brush size ever so slightly so we can make a slightly bigger version of it. And then we're also going to duplicate this layer so that the color of the peony intensifies a little bit, and then we can merge these two layers, and so this looks pretty nice. So now let's rotate this ever so slightly as well, so it kind of looks a bit straighter on the page. And now we want to add some more colors to this, and in order to do that, let's open up the layers panel and then tap on the thumbnail and select Alpha Lock. And what this does is it locks all the pixels in place so that you can't accidentally paint outside the already painted pixels. And we're going to do that so that we can add some more colors. So let's select orange, and then let's add some orange to this. And you see that the Show Me Your Florals brush set also has a soft airbrush. This is not actually a brush I made myself. This comes as standard with ProCreate, but just for convenience reasons, I thought I'll add it to this brush set so that we don't have to jump around the different brush sets and we can just keep on painting. So choose that soft airbrush, and then make sure the opacity is set to around 60%, and then the size Maybe around 12% is probably fine. And now we can paint in some orange here. And now you probably think, well, this looks a little bit weird. There's too many streaks here, and that's absolutely right. But now what we're going to do is select the smudging tool. And now we can smudge this out and create a nice little blend here. So now, of course, this is up to you where you would like to have the orange. I think it looks nice in the center here. And then what we're going to do is add a bit of darker colors around our flower as well. So we're going back to the brushes, and then let's select this purple color and add some purple here around the edges. Maybe it's a bit too light, so we can also select the slightly darker shade. And then again, smudge it out a little bit. And this looks pretty good. So now you'll see that all the colors are quite flat. So we want to add a bit more interest. We want to add some highlights and some shadows to this. And in order to do that, we're going to open up the layers panel, and then on a new layer, change the blend mode to overlay. And then select that black, and again go back to your soft airbrush, and now we can burn in some of those edges ever so slightly. You can just paint, and because we've set the blend mode to overlay, it doesn't affect any of the other pixels, but it just darkens the edges ever so slightly, and this gives it a really nice effect. And then again, some parts might be a bit too intense, but we can use that smudging tool again, and then we can just refine this a bit. And this looks pretty good now. So what we want to do as well is maybe add some little seeds here in the middle. So we're going to add another new layer, and then maybe use yellow for this. And for this, I recommend that you use the iPad Leaf Strokes brush. We're going to use this brush a little bit later, and I'm going to show you what this is super useful for. But for now, we can use this, and then we can paint some little dots here. And you see how this creates really nice organic sort of looking dots. And then maybe some black ones as well. And this looks pretty good. So now let's add another layer and change the color to green. And now let's paint some leaves. So we are going to use the 5 leaves brush and paint a leaf. Again, this is probably a bit small, so let's increase the brush size. And then also duplicate the layer to intensify the color, maybe one more time. And this looks good. And then we can merge these layers. You can just pinch them together to merge them like that, and also alpha lock them. So we can swipe to the right. This is the same as tapping on your thumbnail and then hitting alpha lock. You can also swipe to the right. Very easy gesture to know. And then let's select this leaf and put it in place here. And this looks nice. And let's create another one by duplicating this layer. And then we're going to flip it around. And we are going to place this one here. Like so. Maybe make it a bit smaller. They don't have to be the same size. Just to make it look a little bit more organic as well. And this looks pretty good. So now you see we have a problem here where the two shapes overlap, but there is an easy fix for that. Let's merge the two layers, and then let's use the masking feature to hide these overlaps here. So we're going to tap on mask, and you can see here there's a new layer here. So now what we need to do is select the black color and then the soft airbrush, and now we can mask out the parts here that are overlapping. And the nice thing about using the airbrush for this is that it doesn't create a harsh edge here. So maybe decrease the brush size a little bit. And you can see here I've painted a bit too much. So to fix that, we change the color to white. And then we can paint part of the leaf back in like this. This is the nice thing about using the mask rather than just using the eraser. It means if you have made a mistake, it's very, very easy to fix it. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to erase all of this. And then we want to add a bit more interest to our leaves as well. So now we're going to open up the layers panel and then select the leaves layer. And you can see it's still alpha lock, which is exactly what we want. So now we're going to select a slightly lighter shade and then draw in some lighter parts of the leaves as well. And I'm actually going to change the color a bit as well. Maybe use a lighter green like this. And again, use the soft airbrush. And now we can maybe at the tip add some highlights here. If this is not bright enough, you can certainly increase the saturation of your color a little bit as well. So this looks a bit nicer. And I'm just going to paint in some rough strokes here, and then we're going to smudge them out and match them to the rest of our leaves. And this creates a really nice subtle effect. And I'm just going to zoom in so you can see the nice transition. And it's very, very subtle. But just creates a little bit more interest in our leaves. You can also pull this down and then move it around a bit. All right, so now this looks pretty good. And of course, if you would like to, you can also burn in some of these edges a little bit more by adding another layer and then change the blend mode to overlay. And with that black airbrush, we can now add some shadows here as well. And you can see now, even though we have used the stamp brush to start with, it looks completely different already. You've actually managed to add your own little flair, your own colors, and then also the highlights and the shadows. And so this is a completely new composition. But as I've said at the start, I completely understand that you would like to be able to paint these yourself. So what we're going to do now is we're grouping all the layers. Okay, and then so we can move them all as one. And then we are going to hide the group so that we have a blank canvas again. And now we are going to paint a anemone. And we are going to use the IPL Blossoms brush for this. And then a pink color. And so this brush has really only been possible to make since the release of ProCreate 5. With ProCreate 5, there have been a lot of new features introduced to be able to make super, super cool brushes, and this is one of them. And now we can start painting the petals, and really all we have to do now is paint the petal like this. And then we can sort of keep on painting and sort of paints and smudges at the same time. And this is pretty cool. You can see here how it's got the little dried edges here. And this is all a feature of this brush. I mean, how cool is that? I am so happy that this is possible now in ProCreate. This is really one of those dreams I've always had ever since I've started using ProCreate, that something like this would be possible. And being able to paint almost like with real watercolor on the iPad, This is so amazing. And of course, I'm going to show you exactly how this works as part of the course. I'm just going to paint this reasonably quickly so that it's not going to take too much time, just to show you what we can do with this. So this is pretty cool. And now let's go back to the smudging tool. And also I want to mention that the smudging, I'm actually using the same brush here. This is also that Blossoms brush. This works equally well for painting and also for smudging. So now we can create even more of a watercolor effect here by smudging some of this out. And creating some highlights here already. And this looks pretty good. So now on a new layer, we are also going to paint in the little seeds here. And we're going to go back to the Leaf Strokes brush. So I'm just going to paint them in. And you can see this is really fast as well. I'm not spending too much time on this. And then some black as well. And so this looks very cute. All right, so now we are also going to change the color a bit of our petals here. So again, choosing orange, and then you can use the airbrush, or you can even use the Blossoms brush here as well to add some interest, different colors, maybe here in the center. And you can see now this brush is actually super nice because it smudges as well. So you can paint and smudge almost at the same time, which is very nice and just really nice to work with. And then we can smudge it a bit more. And then of course we are also going to do the overlay mode here to burn in the edges a little bit more with the black color, and this time switching to the soft airbrush. Let's make it a bit bigger so it's a bit softer. And then smudge it to make that really nice and smooth here. All right, what do you think? It's not too bad, right? But we can take this up another notch. So now what we're going to do is select the layer with our flower and duplicate this layer. And now we are going to rotate it like this, and then make it ever so slightly smaller. So now we can add very quickly another layer to our florals, just like that. Isn't that amazing? And then we are going to duplicate this. These are the flowers that are at the top, so they're probably looking a little bit more intense than the ones at the back. So this looks very good. So we can now merge it down. And this is our anemone done. So now the next thing we want to do is create a stem and some leaves for this as well. But let's just group this flower so we can move it up a little bit further. So we've got some room here for our stem. And then on a new layer and using green, we can use the Leaf Strokes brush for this. And this is a super cool brush, but you might need to practice a little bit with it. It can be a little bit difficult to use. So what you can do with this is actually draw leaves like this. So you're starting with only light pressure, but then you put pressure on and then you take it off again. And that creates some really nice leaf shapes. And it took me a little while until I could do this, but it's so much fun to do this. So you can just practice this until you're happy with the leaves that you are creating. And then now let's draw in the stem. So we're going to start from the middle here. and not add too much pressure, but just light pressure, and then pull it down like this. And now here where it's overlapping, you can erase it or you can mask it. It's up to you. I'm going to erase it. I don't think I'm going to need this again like that. And then now we can also draw in some of those leaves. And I don't think that anemones have these leaves, but this is just for demo purposes. I just want to show you what this looks like. And, you know, I think it's very cute. And like that. Now you can see we've painted our own florals and they almost resemble watercolor. How cool is that? We can improve this a little bit, of course. We can add some lighter green here as well. And we've still got our light green here in the history of color swatches. So now you can use that strokes brush again for this. I think that works quite nicely. It's quite intense now, but as you know, we can smudge this out to make it look a bit nicer and really make it look as if those colors were flowing on the page, almost like with real watercolors. I really enjoy doing this so much. I spend a lot of time trying this out and just really see what types of effects I can achieve. It's so nice. I'm really a big fan of this, and I think you're really going to like it as well. All right, and there you have it. This is our Show Me Your Florals really quick tutorial. I really can't wait to see you in the course and also to see what you're going to come up with the new ProCreate 5 watercolor brushes.
Okay, well, I mean, it's like 100 times easier and tidier, and I don't have paint on my hands if I just use the iPad like that. And clearly it looks like real watercolor. Like, that's actually insane how much better it is than it used to be. And I think people have now seen like the stamp version of how easy it was for you to just put your pen down and it felt like cheating versus like actually painting your own flower, which it's night and day.
And you know what's cool as well is now you can actually combine the two as well. Even if you're not 100% confident painting florals from scratch, you could even start with the stamps, but then with the smudging tools and the brushes we have, you can enhance those stamps as well. So there's so many possibilities of being creative on the iPad and actually make it look real. And then another thing that we're going to do as part of Show Me Florals, I'm actually going to teach you the techniques as well. So it's not just the, you know, how to paint the florals or the flowers, but also how to create that watercolor look on the iPad, because I feel it's important to get the technique right, you know, like we do that with real watercolors on real paper. So it's the same thing. We're going to go through the techniques and how to achieve the look and what makes it look like real watercolor. And I'm so excited. I really am. And yeah, so I think it'll be fun. I really can't wait to see what everyone's going to create and what they're going to come up with. And yes.
Yeah. So for anybody who's watching and has heard us now say Show Me Your Florals about 50 times, I just want to like back up a little bit and tell you that Show Me Your Florals is a free watercolor course, and originally it started with another artist named Stephanie Fehrenbach, who actually teaches, you know, physical watercolors, and then we brought Karin in to do all the iPad versions of it. So if you're watching and you're a creative person, which you definitely are if you're at the end of this video and you've watched this whole thing, then you should definitely come join, and you can do it physically or on the iPad or both, and you can do it all. The steps are all going to be the same. The tools are just different. And yeah, it walks you really from the ground up all the way to painting really beautiful flowers, even if you think you can't. So in this video, we kind of did like a crash course in it, but in that one we really go like step by step through everything, like you said, Karin. So yeah, I mean, I can tell how excited you are, and I'm matching your excitement because I want to try it on my iPad. Okay, so before I let you go, can you just remind everybody what the URL is for them to go grab all these freebies and sign up for the course if they want to, and then also where they can find you, just more of you in general?
Yes, absolutely. So the URL is ipadlettering.com/showmeyourflorals. And then if you wanted to learn more, you can find me on Instagram under @iPad lettering, and then also on YouTube, which is youtube.com/iPad lettering. And I've got many more tutorials as well about lettering and planning and painting. So anything you would like to learn with your iPad, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karin, for coming on. I don't think we need to say it again, but I'm just so excited for people to try this, and myself included, and then to see all of these new faces that want to learn this inside Show Me Your Florals. So that's it for now, but thanks again for coming on. And I mean, I'll see you very soon because we're going to be teaching this course together. So
perfect. Thank you so much for having me. And same, as I said as well, very excited to do this with you. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.